On August 24th, Shilo Sanders was released by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers barely 24 hours after throwing a punch that got him tossed from their preseason finale against the Bills.
Buccaneers informed rookie Shilo Sanders today that he's being...
The son of NFL icon Deion Sanders just broke his silence after being cut. His response was nothing the league expected. Let's break it down. The sudden collapse. The NFL stands as one of the harshest proving grounds in professional sports, where careers can vanish in seconds and reputations crumble from a single reckless act. For Shilo Sanders, the 25-year-old son of Hall of Fame great Deion, Coach Prime Sanders, that fateful moment hit on August 24th, 2025, when the Buccaneers front office made a move that rippled across the football universe. Let's rewind. Shilo Sanders was never just another undrafted rookie. This was a player who built a notable college career, racking up 229 tackles, 6 interceptions, and 7 forced fumbles across stints at South Carolina, Jackson State, and Colorado. His journey through the NCAA was nothing short of persistence. He trailed his father from program to program, forever trying to create his own name outside the looming presence of one of the most dominant defenders in NFL history. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers believe they had found untapped talent when they picked him up right after the 2025 NFL Draft, with his father Deion announcing the signing live on Twitch to thousands of hyped viewers. The celebration felt like a milestone. For a moment, it looked as if the Sanders dynasty was about to add a fresh NFL chapter.
Obviously, Folsom put in the artificial turf this summer. What do you like about that look of the turf and the feel of it? Did the players enjoy it?
I like the look of it because it's beautiful.
But the NFL spares no one, no matter how promising they appear. And Shilo's climb would prove no different. His contract spelled out just how fragile his situation really was. A 3-year deal valued at $2,965,000, but with only $1,572 guaranteed. That tiny guarantee wasn't just a line in paperwork. It screamed the reality of the NFL. Nothing is certain, and every inch must be clawed through sweat, blood, and relentless work. Through training camp and those early preseason matchups, Shilo flashed glimpses of the skill that made him a college standout. Head coach Todd Bowles voiced early confidence, calling him very aggressive, very young, very hungry, while noting he could help right away on special teams. The staff admired his football IQ and the way he commanded communication among teammates since day one. Yet, football is built on the smallest margins, and sometimes those margins separate a dream realized from one slipping away forever. Shilo's preseason showings were solid but forgettable, for tackles across 3 games. Not exactly eye-catching when you're competing for the final roster spot. The breaking point arrived on August 23rd, 2025, in what should have been just another exhibition clash against the Buffalo Bills. What unfolded in those pivotal moments completely shifted the trajectory for Shilo Sanders and became a brutal reminder of how razor-thin the line is between triumph and failure in pro football.
Buccaneers informed rookie Shilo Sanders today that he's being waived. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, Robert Bailey, a former teammate of mine with the Ravens, added, "We're hoping he'd get claimed off waivers."
The act that sealed Shilo's fate was both needless and destructive. After drawing a penalty for pass interference earlier in the contest, Shilo got into a fiery clash with Bills tight end Zach Davidson. In a flash of regret he'd wish he could erase, Shilo threw a punch during the post-play shoving, leading to his instant ejection. The sight was crushing for a rookie already clinging to hope. There he was, a Sanders, walking off the field under escort for swinging his fist in what amounted to a meaningless preseason matchup. The image could not have looked worse, especially for a player carrying the burden of such a historic surname. Head coach Todd Bowles didn't sugarcoat his response. His words were firm and decisive.
No, you can't throw punches in this league. I mean, that's inexcusable. They're gonna get you.
These weren't just hollow coach cliches. They came from a man who watched countless young prospects ruin careers over rash decisions. The painful twist was that, by nearly every account, Shilo was genuinely well-liked within the organization. Reports suggested the Buccaneers enjoyed his presence in the locker room and respected his character. His agents confirmed he showed instant remorse after the punch. But in the unforgiving NFL, good character and apologies rarely erase poor judgment, especially for an undrafted rookie with no leverage. The cold truth is teams pour millions into draft picks, and when cuts loom, Those high investments are protected, while fringe rookies who slip up are discarded. What followed was swift and ruthless. Less than 24 hours later, on August 24th, 2025, the Buccaneers made their call. As rosters were being trimmed to the 53-man requirement, Shilo Sanders got the dreaded phone call. He'd been waived. The announcement spread like wildfire across social media and sports networks. This wasn't just any player being cut. This was the son of one of football's most legendary figures, a young man who had carried the crushing weight of impossible expectations. Told in blunt terms, he was no longer needed. The symbolism was glaring. This wasn't a routine transaction. This felt like a dynasty collapsing before it even began. The release of Coach Prime's son ignited a media storm, splitting opinions about the choice, the Sanders family name, and larger arguments about nepotism, race, and fairness in the NFL. Even before Shilo gave his reaction, other legends had already spoken up, and their takes were anything but unanimous. The first and perhaps most critical voice came from a man with the most on the line in Shilo's journey. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, never one to stay away from the spotlight or, in the face of these difficult conversations, Deion Sanders addressed his son's ordeal with the same composed assurance that had defined his Hall of Fame career.
Son, I'm proud of my kids, all of them. And I prepared my kids for any and everything.
Deion's response struck the perfect balance between a proud father's loyalty and a realist acceptance. His words carried a weight that reached far beyond the single misstep. We're praying that he gets another opportunity to go with the team, but if he doesn't, the plans have already been put forward to what he's going to do next. All the Sanders are going to be straight with or without football.
All the Sanders are going to be straight, with or without football. You better believe
This wasn't simply a parent defending their child. It was a calculated statement from someone who knew this moment would shape how the Sanders family's resilience was perceived. The message came through loud and clear. They had expected this possibility, built fallback options, and were prepared to bounce back stronger. But the most striking part was Deion's hint about Shilo's silence. He described Shilo as a man of many talents. This wasn't just a cliche or parental exaggeration. It suggested the family always knew football might not be Shilo's final calling, and they had been quietly laying the groundwork for alternate paths. The professional stance came from Shilo's agents, Drew Rosenhaus and Robert Bailey, both respected across NFL circles. They issued a carefully crafted statement, hopeful but grounded in reality. "We're hoping he gets claimed on waivers," they said, while pointing out how much the Buccaneers valued Shilo as both a player and a person. They emphasized his character, noting that the team saw him as a good kid who was consistently respectful and immediately regretful after the incident. This wasn't spin. It was a deliberate effort to safeguard his reputation for future opportunities. Meanwhile, the media machine roared. Hot takes, debates, and commentary poured in from all sides. Among the loudest and most thoughtful was Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharpe, who used his podcast Nightcap to drop a stinging reality check.
And it's really hard because think about it, Ocho. He's 25. I think he's 24, 25.
Sharpe cut to the core why this story resonated so deeply. For the first time in 25 years, somebody has told you you're not good enough. This wasn't only about football. It was about a young man tasting rejection and failure, possibly for the very first time in his life.
He's 25. But think about it. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, for the first time in your life, you're in your mid-20s.
The insight was powerful. Children of great athletes often grow up surrounded by constant success and sky-high expectations. That bubble can make the sting of the first real failure almost unbearable. Yet not everyone in the sports world offered compassion. Antonio Brown, always quick with controversy, blasted out a raw social media post. Whole Sanders fam going to end up getting cut out the league. Not even their fault that NFL couldn't humble their dad. So they will repay kids. His words were biting, but they echoed a sentiment brewing in some corners of social media and sports chatter. The idea that the NFL was intentionally humbling the Sanders family, perhaps to undercut Coach Prime's growing influence. The idea that the league was working to block Coach Prime's kids from thriving at the pro level began to spread. This theory picked up steam as fans noted how unusual the media frenzy around Shilo's release was. As Shannon Sharpe put it, Maybe you can recall the last time an undrafted free agent. It was breaking news that he was getting released, getting waived, whatever the case may be. His point landed. Undrafted rookies are cut daily without anyone blinking, let alone making national headlines.
Sometimes your last name can be a blessing and a curse. It's not normal that free agents have breaking news that they're being released. He's an undrafted free agent. And because his name is Sanders, the blessing and the curse, people say, well, Shannon, he only got an opportunity because...
Social media erupted, divided straight down the middle. Supporters defended the Sanders family, with many claiming racism and bias were baked into the decision. Posts like, "I'm starting to believe the NFL wants to make the Sanders men look bad on purpose," went viral. Others drew comparisons to dynasties like the Mannings, asking if they would face the same level of public dissection. Suddenly, the discussion had moved beyond football stats into deeper arguments over race, privilege, and fairness in pro sports. On the flip side, critics said the waiver was purely about performance, insisting Shilo's last name shouldn't give him immunity. Harsh takes like, "couldn't happen to a better kid family," reflected the belief that the Sanders clan benefited from preferential coverage no one else would ever receive. The actual punch instant became the lightning rod. Some argued Shilo was defending himself from excessive blocking, justifying his reaction. Others saw it as a reckless, unprofessional outburst, proving he lacked the maturity to make it in the NFL. Professional analysts weighed in with more nuance. Figures like Dan Orlovsky, Stephen A. Smith, and other ESPN hosts broke down whether the move was fair, how legacy plays into roster decisions, and what it all might mean for the next generation of athletes born into fame.
My brother had a very interesting take on a dream. He said, you know what a dream is, Ocho? A dream that comes true? He said it's a gift to yourself. A dream is a gift to yourself.
The debate soon shifted to the bigger picture, the crushing weight children of icons live under. Shannon Sharp and Chad Okosinko Johnson dove deep on their show into how kids of legends face pressures most can't imagine.
You know, it's easy to be motivated.
Oh, yeah.
Being hungry, being hot, being cold, it's easy. Being rained on, it's easy to develop.
Their analysis hit on a unique truth. Motivation itself can be harder to sustain when external pressures like financial survival aren't present. When you're born into success, when money and opportunity are guaranteed, digging deep for that inner fire is often more challenging. Amid all the noise, one person stayed silent: Shilo Sanders. His refusal to speak began to feel deliberate as the days ticked by. Was it a calculated move, a private coping process, or advice from legal and professional voices around him? The questions multiplied, but the answers didn't. And that silence carried its own message. In the 72 hours after Shilo Sanders was waived by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, something rare unfolded in the modern sports era. Total silence from the athlete at the center of it all. Amid the storm of speculation, takes, and media chatter, Shilo Sanders stayed as quiet as a church mouse, creating one of the strangest mysteries modern NFL fans have ever seen. This wasn't just rare, it was almost unheard of in today's hyper-connected era, where athletes turn every career twist into content for Instagram posts or Twitter threads. Shilo's refusal to say anything at all spoke volumes about his character, his mindset, and maybe his long-term strategy. Research confirmed that as of August 27, 2025, Shilo Sanders had offered no reaction to being waived by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No statement. No interview, no social media posts. That silence itself became its own headline, leaving fans and analysts to wonder what was really going through his head during those decisive days. The context made it even more striking. This was a 25-year-old who had just endured what Shannon Sharp pointed out was likely the first moment in his life someone told him he wasn't good enough. For most athletes his age, such a crushing career blow would spark some kind of public response, whether anger, gratitude, defiance, or even a simple farewell message. But Shilo chose none of those options. His social feeds, once filled with glimpses into his NFL journey and personality, went completely dark. No goodbye to teammates, no thank you to the organization, no bold promise to silence critics, nothing. The total absence began to feel deliberate, almost like a strategy. What made it so fascinating was what Shilo refused to do. He didn't follow the standard playbook athletes use in setbacks. No desperate pleas other teams, no excuses, no fishing for sympathy. Instead, his actions mirrored a different manual, one where dignity and privacy outweighed PR battles. The only insight into his emotions came secondhand. His agents revealed he showed immediate remorse after the punch and understood how serious the fallout was. Privately, it seemed he was processing the weight of his choices.
It's part of fathering, that's part of parenting, that's part of having a relationship. So he is mentally where he needs to be, physically where he needs to be. We're praying that he gets another opportunity to go with it.
His father, Deion Sanders, gave another glimpse, assuring the public, Shilo is mentally where he needs to be, physically where he needs to be. It suggested the real processing was happening within the family, behind closed doors. This contrasted sharply with the way most modern athletes handle adversity. In an age where branding and controlling the public story are considered survival skills, Shilo's silence looked either incredibly mature or radically unconventional. It also highlighted the unique pressure famous kids face. As Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson noted on their podcast, growing up in the shadow of legends comes with battles most can't comprehend. Seen this way, Shilo's silence could be interpreted as his attempt to carve out independence, to separate his personal path from the Sanders family's public narrative. And the timing made it even more dramatic.
I take care of mine, and I've always have, and y'all know what I mean.
During those crucial days, Shilo Sanders went unclaimed as he cleared waivers. On August 27, 2025, Shilo Sanders officially cleared waivers and became an unrestricted free agent. That meant his next step would be pivotal in deciding whether his NFL career could still move forward. The waiver system itself revealed how the league viewed him. When a player like Sanders is waived, they sit on the wire for 24 hours.
Some of these, sadly, is going to come to an end. Some of these guys are not going to get, what do we call it, Ocho? Practice squad opportunities. Yeah. Some of these guys, it's over.
Giving other teams a chance to claim them in order priority. The fact no team placed a claim wasn't necessarily proof that he lacked ability. Undrafted rookies historically face brutal odds, with only 4 to 6% cracking initial 53-man rosters. But his unclaimed status did open doors. As a free agent, he could negotiate with any franchise, potentially even the Toronto Argonauts, who held his CFL rights. There was also chatter that the Buccaneers might invite him back on their practice squad. Analysts floated possible fits, from the Cleveland Browns to link up with his brother Shadur, to the Denver Broncos, who had needs at safety. Yet through all of the speculation, Shilo stayed silent, letting the outside world debate his future. His stance lined up with Deion's insistence that the family had alternate paths already prepared. Calling Shilo a man of many talents hinted that this quiet approach was part of a bigger plan that wasn't tied only to football. Interview 1806, 1811. The family's media strategy seemed effective. As critics ripped and fans rallied, the Sanders clan carried themselves with composure. Deion's calm public comments paired with Shilo's deliberate silence painted the image of family expecting adversity and ready to push through it. But what made Shilo's silence most fascinating was what it said about the modern athlete's relationship with public dialogue. In an era when athletes are expected to post instantly, to turn every moment into content, choosing complete silence felt like an act of defiance. It implied some moments are too personal, too layered, to be distilled into a tweet or a press bite. That silence also revealed a maturity many young athletes lack. Instead of lashing back at critics or rushing to defend himself, Shilo seemed intent on letting his actions, not his words, carry weight in the future. It was a display of patience, an understanding that one wrong statement during such a volatile time could linger longer than the mistake itself. Interview 1910-1920. As days passed and the frenzy cooled, Shilo's silence shifted meaning. It was no longer about dodging controversy. It was about taking control of his narrative. By refusing to engage in debates about nepotism, legacy, or fairness, he was signaling that his worth as both a person and a player was not for outsiders to decide. And that leaves a looming question. What comes next for Shilo Sanders? Will Shilo Sanders eventually step forward and give his own take on what he's been through? Will another NFL franchise give him a second chance? Or will he chase one of the alternative paths his father hinted at? The answers to those questions remain uncertain. But what is clear is that the way he's carried himself through this setback has revealed a lot about his character and how he approaches adversity. Whether that mindset pays off in his future journey is still up in the air. Yet in a sports world that so often amplifies the loudest voices and thrives on constant drama, there was something striking, even refreshing, about an athlete who seemed to recognize that sometimes the strongest statement is saying nothing at all. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, tap one of the boxes on your screen now to check out more content just like this.